Welcome to the Mom Owned and Operated podcast, the podcast about moms and for moms, where we have candid conversations about running a business, raising a family, and remembering ourselves. I'm your host, Rita Suzanne, a single mom of four, digital strategist, and provider of no-nonsense business strategies and tactics. Hi, this is Mom Owned and Operated. I am Rita Suzanne, and today I have my guest Audrey with me. Audrey, I'm so excited to have you on so we can talk about all of the things. Please tell everyone all about you, your family, and your business.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I am so excited to be joining this call as a parental leave consultant and owner of Smallwave Consulting. So kind of as a backstory, I had previously owned a marketing agency. And kind of from day one of having that small business, my goal was, how can I create a maternity leave for myself? And 3 years later, I was excited to be able to finally take that maternity leave and realized that there were so many questions and dead ends when I was trying to create some sort of sustainable paid leave for myself for my small business. And so my son is just about to turn 1 year old next week, and that's kind of where things have morphed. So when I was working in the marketing agency, I was very organically working with many women business owners, oftentimes ages 20 to 40, starting to navigate the similar process. And so part of our business offerings kind of shifted into the support on this issue. So that's why I'm excited to be here today.
Yes. So let's talk about how so are you helping women who have their own businesses, or more so those who are in corporate, or both?
Yeah, definitely. So my focus is supporting women and parents just that have their own businesses that are either looking to start their family or grow their family. And that could be the birthing parent or non-birthing parent.
Oh, nice. So you're helping them to kind of create a plan for when the birth happens and how to take off time and be financially stable during that time. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. And, like many things, the best sort of support and plan kind of can take shape the longer time you have. So yeah, the whole idea is, even if you're just starting your business, getting started to think about, if leave is important to you, how do you kind of weave that into the framework of your business?
Yeah, I think it's easier when you are working in corporate, right? Because you're like, okay, I can get FMLA, I can get all of these things. When you're working for yourself, are you able to get any of those benefits, or like, how does that work?
Yeah, so that's really the ultimate challenge. So, I think as many of us know, the United States is one of just 6 countries in this world that does not have any sort of national paid family leave. And then in addition to that, it's been up to the individual states. So currently there's 13 states and Washington, D.C. that have any sort of support when it comes to a family medical leave. But I'm personally located in Illinois, and that means there is no support there. So really, my work has been focused on any small business owner that has zero support when it comes to the kind of federal, state or federal payouts. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I see so many entrepreneurs, especially like taking leave, but it's such a short period of time that they're able to take off, which, you know, I would hope that they would have more freedom, but at least I guess they're not going back to an office, right? But still, you want to have that dedicated time to spend with your baby.
Yeah, definitely. And the beauty and the challenge of having your own business is you get to decide what you want to do. So I sent out an initial survey and of people that have taken a leave from their business in the past, and it's averaged about people take about 2.5 months of leave from their business, but that can range from 6 weeks or 2 weeks to 6 weeks to 5 months. But the kicker is that about 86% of those people that have responded said that it was an unpaid leave, and that's also a big challenge as well.
Yeah, because as a business owner, how do you take such a long period of time off without, losing clients, how does that, how do you, like, what kind of strategies would you have in place for that? Like, how do they continue to make
Yeah.
money if they're not there?
Yeah, exactly. And that's where a few of the kind of pre-planning, tasks really come into play. So, like, first and foremost, if you have a team of at least 2 to 3 people, um, it definitely can be worth it to look into a short-term disability policy. And that's oftentimes if you have at least 10 months kind of on your side. Other things are having some sort of financial plan. So, I like to refer to the profit first model by
Mhm.
Mike McCallowitz, and just kind of using an idea of how can I just set some money aside, however long of time I have, and kind of have that nest egg. But if time is less on your side, that's kind of where like my marketing mind goes, and it's focus on how can you create solid like network and networking groups for yourself, and can you create a wait list, and what kind of marketing are you doing now for 9, 12, whatever months from now. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's hard to actually think that far in ahead,
Hmm.
which is why having someone like you come in and kind of help them to see how to best approach the situation, right? Because we're so close to our business that sometimes we can't
Hmm.
see so far ahead. So, what type of practices or planning tactics would you use to make that happen?
Yeah. So right now I currently kind of offer 2 ways of support, and that's much to being a small business owner myself. I know that you could be the most resourceful person. Maybe you have a little bit of a bigger budget to spend. So the idea is to kind of fit people where they're at. So the first offering is a downloadable, kind of like a wedding planning guide. So if you're thinking like, if I had 12 months until my wedding, what do I need to be doing each month to make it feel very not overwhelming at all? So that kind of guide in terms of planning your own parental leave. And then the second offering is really more of that um, custom approach. So, kind of doing a deep dive, working together, making sure. One of the things that I really stress is making sure you have your support system. And as small business owners, that can really, mingle together. What do you need as a support system for your business, as well as you personally, once you do have a new baby around.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. So, how did you? I know you mentioned briefly like how you kind of got into this, but what
Mhm.
made you start this aspect of your business?
Yeah. So I started my first business when I was 30 years old, or maybe 29 years old. Um, and I knew, kind of as I was starting to kind of family plan and think about the next 5 years, I knew that whatever career path I took, it was important to me that I would feel supported in kind of growing my family. So really, when I co-founded my marketing agency, like we sat down and talked about what are ways that we can create enough revenue stream now so that we can really support what our ultimate goals are. And so that journey really looked like talking with HR professionals, or like financial planners, insurance agents. But I really kind of kept on hitting dead ends because we were too small. It was just two of us. We weren't profitable for a lot of people. And so it was really until I found, another woman that got it and could kind of lead me in the right direction, to kind of kick things off.
Yeah. I think that and then figuring out like how to take that break is probably the biggest thing. And I love the profit first model. I think that it's a
Mhm.
very smart thing, especially for entrepreneurs, except the part about having five different, bank
Yeah.
accounts, that part.
Exactly. I think that there's a lot of room for you to adapt it to your own, way of doing it. But it's a good kickoff for sure. I agree.
Yeah. I don't know about that part.
Yeah.
But I love the concept of it. I think it's very smart to
Yeah.
do that. I have 3 accounts, but I don't have 5.
Yeah.
So
Same. My bookkeeper wasn't happy when she saw what I was doing, but it all made sense afterwards.
so now that you've, been in business for a while and transitioned, and so I like to ask people if if another woman came to you or another mom and she's wanting to start her own business, what would you tell her? And like, what would some advice be that you would give her?
Yeah. So, two pieces of advice come to mind. The first one is just kind of get out there and network. I think that networking is very much a skill where it feels very intimidating and uncomfortable at first. And the more you do it, it's just like, okay, it's just a conversation. It's just second nature. But I've found that no matter like the phase of life, phase of business, a networking conversation has always been the thing that takes me to that next level.
Mhm.
And even if it's like, it doesn't really make sense that I'm meeting with this person, like you never know that her neighbor is actually looking for your service. Um, so that would definitely be one piece of advice. And the other is like just getting started. So in my marketing background, we would oftentimes see clients like being like, oh, I can't get started. I don't have my website, or I need to spend all this money on this big tool. And it's like, no, actually start seeing what is the need, who do you want to be working with, and just start building as
Yeah.
you're selling.
Yeah. I think for me, I've been doing this for 10 years now, and something that I wish I would have started doing, pardon me, sooner was building relationships and
Mhm.
really developing a deeper network than what I did.
Yeah.
And I think that that would have served me well through this time. Like I had a great relationship with all of my clients, and that helped me throughout the years. And then when I changed and kind of pivoted my business and my clients kind of went in a different direction, that would have been a perfect time for me to have a network. And when
Mhm.
I didn't, then when I decided to come back and start doing the same thing, it was almost like starting all over again. And so I would say to anyone who's just starting out, or even like wherever you are in your business, work on building those relationships.
Yeah.
And networking, like you mentioned, is so important, and it tough to anybody. And I think
Mhm.
that people, when they're networking, what I find is interesting is that people go in immediately trying to sell. And I think that
Mhm.
that's where they go wrong. And like go in just trying to make friends with people. Like
Yeah.
don't go in there with any expectations or any like anything in mind. Just go in there and just, make friends, be nice, be
Yeah.
friendly, and just go in there with that expectation. And I think that will serve you better in the long run than any of that, like, hey, buy my thing, here's,
Mhm.
like, and I think that that goes in any situation, right? If you're networking online, same thing.
Yeah.
That's not just for in-person stuff.
Right. And I think to your point, it's what I like the main networking circles that I like to be a part of is who's gonna say your name in a room when you're not there. And for me, one off networking events are great, but I really like those kind of those communities where you come back maybe a couple times a month or once a month, once a quarter, and you start to build those relationships because that's when really people are talking about you in a positive way, even if you can't be in that room.
So do you like local networking or virtual, or what are your as a marketer, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, having started my business in 2020, so very much got started with the virtual networking. I think that there's benefits for both. I think I'm located in Chicago, and um, I'm a part of Chicago-based groups, but we do meet online, and so there's the convenience factor, and then maybe once a quarter we'll all get drinks, and so I like that combination where it's like let's just hang out as people, and then especially as moms, let's get things done quickly because to waste 2 hours driving somewhere, she's like, hey, no, I've got time for that.
Yeah, I feel like, when I first started, there was not a lot of, for me, I didn't see the need to do a lot of local networking, right? And at the time, my kids were younger, and so I didn't have the support to go out and do a lot of local networking.
Yeah.
And
For sure.
um, but now I feel like our market has changed so much that you cannot just solely rely on social networking, right? Like I feel
Mm-hmm.
like you have to do both. You
Yeah.
cannot just rely on one or the other. There has to be more. And the thing about local networking or any of that is you create a connection so much quicker, right, than
Mm-hmm.
anything on social. And
Yeah.
I love that aspect of it. I think that if you want to make relationships quickly, go to something local. That's
Yeah.
going to help.
And I also will emphasize the power of mom groups. Having only been eligible for a mom group for a year, it's amazing just like that next level of support or like automate, like, um, yeah, just
Like the
willingness to,
acceptance, right?
yeah, exactly. It's like that next level of like, okay, there's some sort of commonality that we want to work together towards. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a different thing. Like we understand each other. Like even though,
Mhm.
my kids are all teenagers now and
Yeah.
have a baby, I still can remember what it's like having a
Mm.
baby.
Yeah.
And I remember what the amount of work it takes to
Yeah.
have a little one. And so I think that what you're doing is super important, and especially, for business owners, like and they want to take a little bit of time off, or even maybe they don't want to take like a full amount of time off, but maybe they want to reduce their time that they're
Yeah.
working, right?
Mhm.
Is that something that you would help them like create a plan for? Like maybe they don't want to work, 40 hours. Maybe they only want to work 10 hours so that they can be present in their business, but also have more of that time for their baby.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that I very much stress kind of in the planning process. And I think much like pregnancy, hype and planning and all that, everything is all about getting you to that 40-week mark, right? And then it's you have the baby and then you're like, what? What do I do now? And I think it's very similar with business, right? You like, okay, how do I plan to take time off? Okay, this is covered, this is covered. And then you come back to your business, but you forget that you're going to be a completely different person or have different priorities. And so that's really what part of what we talk about is, what do you want? Obviously things will change and that's kind of inevitable. But for myself, I was like, when I come back from my maternity leave, I'm not going to work on Fridays. Like that's going to be Mom Sunday, right? And so
Yeah.
I was able to kind of navigate to weave that into my messaging of being like, when I return, like this is my availability. So I think that's super important to think about even when like all the other messaging and communication is all about like up until baby arrives.
Right,
Mhm.
right. Yeah, I think it's good to have someone who's going to have you thinking about those things ahead of time so that you can prepare your clients or your team and everybody else to kind of step
Yeah.
up for you when that happens, because we don't realize as, mothers, what it's like to have a baby until we have a baby, right? Like
Absolutely. Yeah.
so now that you are running your business and you have your baby, what is it like? How are you able to, and I hate using the word juggle, but how are you able to
Hmm.
maintain both things? How is it working for you?
Yeah, no lies, it's definitely a challenge. I think, we were talking about earlier that um, for other countries, a maternity leave can be an entire year, and so to think that you need to be able to like get it all under control in a few months, I think one we need to just give ourselves the grace and understand that that doesn't make sense, and it's okay if it's very hard because it can be and it is. Um, but yeah, I mean, for myself, I have tried out several different way just kind of navigating childcare, and
Yeah.
have now recently, been on my third third go about of what works for me. Um, but yeah, I think it's just really putting it out there that like, okay, I'm not going to be able to dedicate 50 hours, get on my computer whenever I need to. It's going to be, if, things will get done, because I also believe that like once you get into mom mode, you do things like 10 times faster. It's still good, but you just like, are like, okay, I'm going to do this. And maybe you're going to send that email at 8 p.m. instead of at 4 p.m. And, that's okay. But I think at the end of the day, and especially the beauty of owning your own business, is you have that flexibility to ultimately get it done.
Yeah. Are you using childcare?
Yeah. So I'm excited about kind of what our current situation is. I go to it's a childcare and co-working space. So I just go there for a couple of afternoons a week and can do a little bit of business work, and I'm also can keep an eye, just kind of be like, oh, okay, he's playing, he's eating his Cheerios. So it's also some valuable time that I don't feel completely disconnected into work.
I love that. Yeah, and he gets a little bit of socialization at the same time. I think that that's it's really important. I always talk about how when I started my business, my sons were 4 and 6, and
Mhm.
so I wanted to be home with them,
Mhm.
but also I wish I could have done childcare, and I
Mhm.
couldn't have afforded it at the time because I was very much bootstrapping it, and I was like, I mean, literally moved across the country, sleeping on an air mattress. I mean, it was rough. And I was excited and grateful to be at home with my sons, but I would have loved to have some childcare or some type of help,
Mhm.
because then the time that I would have got to spend with them would have been, I would have been less stressed,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I say that to say, like, to other moms who are able to do that, I think that it's super important. And I think that it just helps you to be a better mom, and helps you probably have that focus time on your business where, people say like just limiting your time that you're allowed to work on your business,
Mhm.
you're able to just get things done, do, and
Mhm.
just and do it,
Yeah.
because you have that limited amount of time and you aren't working. Whereas when I was doing it, I was working throughout the entire day because I was
Mhm.
interrupted 50,000 times,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
so I was very much stressed out the entire time. But,
Yeah.
it was definitely a different journey for me. And,
Mhm.
I am super grateful that I didn't have to take my kids to just drop them off,
Mm.
uh,
Yes.
but it is what it is. And so I think that for everyone is a different journey, and I love that you're able to like sit down with them and kind of introduce the concepts and ideas of like, have you thought of this, have you considered this, and helping them to pick out things that maybe are right for them in their situation, and point out things that maybe they didn't think about, because they're not in that situation right just
Yeah.
yet. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, much like anything in parenthood, there's never one right solution or one right answer, just like childcare. There's so many things that work for different people. That's the whole idea is okay. And especially hearing from what people have done in the past that have been effective for them in their business. It's kind of learning what as a community we can do and work towards to kind of support one another in the small business journey.
Yeah, I mean, um, it's so different. Like in hindsight, to just think about like what would have been better and probably would have helped me to move faster in my
Mm,
business would
right.
have, that would have probably supported me in a lot different ways. So I love talking about self-care and how you're, especially now that you're a mom, because the way that we take care of ourselves before we have families, and the way that we take care of ourselves and are able to prioritize ourselves can often switch when we start to have littles. And so I'd love to know, like, how are you able to take care of yourself now? Like, what are you doing for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've I've taken on some time that's just for me. It's usually around the 6:30 mark, so kind of right before bedtime is usually when I'll like try to go to the gym or try to have some sort of mom's night out, social thing. So I'll try to do that a couple of times a week. Um, yeah, and then other than that, it's like, as simple as like finding an audiobook or something that I'm really excited to listen to. And I can still be like walking with my baby or whatnot, but still also taking a little bit of time for me. So I just try to fit that in of like things that I'm really curious about or, can be creative about, and trying to, you know, get both things kind of flowing there.
It's crazy because, like when I first started this and I would always, some people will say things like, get their hair done and their nails done. And while I think that that's a form of self-care, it's, definitely not the only form of self-care, right? Like,
Mhm.
I used to say taking a bath was my form of self-care because that was my alone time, right?
Mhm.
Like, and when your kids start to like follow you into the bathroom, going to the bathroom by yourself is a form of self-care. It just like sitting in
Yeah. Yeah.
flow, it comes in so many different forms of just like having that moment to just like
Mhm.
recharge and reflect. And it doesn't matter what it could be. Some people feel like their business is a form of self-care for them,
Mhm.
right? Because it's a form of their identity,
Yeah,
right? So I think that self-care just can look so many different ways. And I love
absolutely.
hearing other people's definitions of what it looks like for them. And, I'm glad that you're able to do some things for you. What are you listening to? Are you listening to anything good lately?
Yeah, I was just listening to Funny Story by Emily Henry. So just kind of as my fiction listening. And then my nonfiction, I usually kind of switch off. I was listening to Find Your Unicorn Space by Eve Rodsky. And that's been really great in terms of, almost answering that self-care question, but in a more like, actually like me working on something creative is, kind of my self-care. So yeah, it's been a really great book.
I love that. I love to
Mhm.
hear what other people are listening to. I just started listening to Gary Vee's new audiobook, Day
Mm.
Trading Attention, and
Okay.
it's pretty interesting as well. As a marketer, I thought you
Yeah.
might be interested in
Yeah.
that. Um, I like his perspective, but I think that you mentioned earlier that well, or maybe anyways. The
Mhm.
thing about someone like a Gary Vee is right. I remember he used to say hustle, 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 right? It was always a
Mhm.
hustle mentality, hustle mentality. And, I used to work 20 hours a week or 20 hours a day. That was his thing. And I used to say all the time to my friends, well, it doesn't matter. His wife is at home taking care of their kids.
Mm.
He can
Mhm.
work 20 hours a day.
Mhm.
That there is a huge difference the way that someone like that can work. And I think that there's still some value in some of the things that he teaches and says for, someone like us, a mom business owner. We can take some of the things and make them applicable. And some of the things we can just say, you know what, that's not applicable to me. Doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. You don't have to work 20 hours a day. No, we cannot. We need to sleep.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, exactly. No,
But
I think that's so true. Yeah.
um, so where are you online? Where can everyone find you?
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram. So it's Smallwave Consulting, as well as my website is smallwaveconsulting.com.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Audrey. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
And there you have it. I want to encourage you to remember that being a mom who runs her own business is not easy. We all struggle, but just keep moving forward and don't forget to make time for yourself. As moms, we are usually the first thing to go to the bottom of the list. If your business is overwhelming you and you need real solutions, not just some sugar-coated suggestions, apply to work with me at ritasuzanne.com/apply.